received the hospitality and generosity of both families this week. Having all the wonderful food from the Sebastian family. Also the wonderful blessing that we were able to receive and pray together after our rehearsal with the leadership of Mrs. Sebastian was wonderful. The great generosity I've always received from the Spiatas, and Mrs. and Mrs. Spiata have always been a great support for their sons and for the friends of their sons, and that is always well received. And so many guests coming from across the country, and Poland. I don't know, maybe I know how many places people are coming from, but a lot, that's great. Also, wonderful to see our old pastor from Mater Misericordiae, Father Paso, here again. And Father Paso has a way of chasing down Spiatas, it seems. Or he's not only been here to Dallas, but he also encountered Raymond when he was in Israel. So he's a kind of a hunter of Spiatas, and he helped bag one of them, Daniel, so we'll see maybe what he can do for this one over here. I first met Daniel at Hillsdale College. We were undergraduates there at Hillsdale in Michigan.
Delaware!
And I really felt very welcomed by Daniel and his friendship. And we were able to, our friendship really came to a flourishing when we moved into an off-campus house together, a house which we nicknamed the Donnybrook, which is Irish phrase for a region in Dublin known for brawling and festivals and so forth. So
yeah!
Yeah!
And the yelling that you hear from the back is from former denizens of such a house. So the testament to the name is in the evidence, as you can see. But, we had a wonderful house, and Daniel was an essential fixture of that house. And he was really a leader of that house and a formative member of it. And I know that he humbly asserts that it was a group effort, and it very much was, but it could not have been accomplished, the kinds of things that we accomplished together as friends and as a sort of elemental part of our campus community. We did it together, and we did it with the instrumental help of Daniel. We had weekly poetry readings, and we did this consistently, every single week, reading poetry. And it sounds kind of nerdy, and not many people ever had done that before, perhaps, but it became an essential cultural fixture of our campus, remarkably, and really enjoyably. And Daniel was always the one holding court in the living room of our house, the Donnybrook, sitting in his chair with the poems that he had selected to read. And that was a wonderful experience to participate in that. And a guest to our house sort of recognized Daniel's prominent position and called Daniel the steward of the Donnybrook. His nickname was Steward of the Donnybrook, and it was a fitting nickname. Let's see. The Daniel's leadership made our house into a beacon of friendship for everyone on campus. Everyone felt welcome there and was well received. I'm not sure if I would have called Daniel a beacon when I first met him, though. I'm not sure if he even remembers this. I think it was our first meeting. It has been over 9 years since that first meeting, when I entered a darkened room of a friend's house, lit by a single standing lamp, and I beheld a sullen figure slouched in a chair. And I was struck by how grave was his appearance and his conversation. There is perhaps nothing in this world more dour than the face of late adolescence. Desperately wanting to be taken seriously. Yes, Daniel was very, very serious at first, but I soon grew fed up with him. And I made it a kind of personal mission to break down Daniel's icy wall. and tried to make Daniel act foolishly whenever possible by some trick. And our relationship and our friendship grew, and we were able to accomplish some of those things which I desired, and embodied so many other things of sharing music and literature and great conversation and many laughs. I think that my objective was finally completed when Daniel joined our house in an undercover mission to steal a 9-foot Christmas tree.
Yes!
A 9-foot Christmas tree from the college cafeteria at Hillsdale College. The group snuck there in the middle of the night, leaped over the wall, the separation wall there, grabbed the tree, walked right out, and brought it back to our house and set it up in the living room. And that day was a day of infamy and caused much turmoil on the campus. And it's a long story with many highs and lows. But ultimately, on a small campus such as ours, the culprits were eventually found out. The word got out that the tree was at our house. And so Daniel and company were dragged up to the dean's office. They were chewed out, and they were given their sentence, their punishment. But they were told to attend the college Christmas party hosted by the wife of the president of the college. And they were forced to hand out cookies to neighborhood children at the Christmas party. And so ultimately their punishment was really more of a reward. Anyone who knows Daniel can see that his faith is central to his life. I may have helped Daniel engage in foolishness, but the sincerity of his faith has always been his example for me. Many times in my college career, I would speak openly and honestly with Daniel about questions of my faith. We've grown together. And besides the intellectual and academic questions, Daniel would always be one to return to prayer. And both the ideas that he shared and held earnestly in his intellect and the devotion and the habit of prayer was something which was always exemplified to me and something that he invited me into to share. And that led ultimately to a great moment in my life when I ultimately decided to join the Catholic Church. And I asked Daniel to be my sponsor. And he went with me from Michigan, where we were still at college, and drove with me to Wisconsin so I could be with my family for my confirmation. And he stood by me on that day at Easter in 2012, and for me to receive that confirmation. But now, as it turned out, a part of that confirmation ceremony was a sort of surprise for me, a surprise for Daniel's own lack of decorum. And in the middle, as the ceremony progressed, there was a line of all the people receiving confirmation, and the priest would go up to each one and anoint each person with holy oil and call them by their patron saint's name. And the stranger to my left, someone whom I had never met before, but was being received into the church that year, he received the confirmation name Saint Albert the Great. Albert the Great is, of course, the great Dominican friar who was the teacher of Thomas Aquinas and a giant in the scholastic tradition. And upon hearing this, a surprise to all of us, no one really knew who this fellow was, a very decent fellow, I'm sure. And but upon hearing this, Daniel could not repress his glee, and he uttered out an audible "Yes!" The fact that Albert the Great was this confirmation patron, just like he could not resist himself, and he exploded with delight. And it was my turn to be scandalized by Daniel. Nevertheless, we were both, all of us, that evening were confirmed, and from that day to this, Daniel has always been my confidant and my counselor. So in review, Daniel is a steward. Daniel is a fool. And Daniel is a godfather to me and to others. And today I have seen Daniel become something new, although perhaps not something entirely different. He has become a husband for Stephanie.
Yeah.
Today has been my opportunity to stand by Daniel on a day of great solemnity and joy. And as he and Stephanie are now joined in holy matrimony, I've been privileged to witness the love that Daniel and Stephanie have shared. And for me, the moments which represent their love most have been the many times they prepared meals together in the kitchen at our house in Irving, cleaning up afterwards, and always singing through their routine. Stephanie and Daniel love to fill their day-to-day lives with meaning. They love to do this together, and their favorite hymns represent a harmony of hearts as well as voices. I rejoice with them today as they go forward into blessed harmony. And I know that they have each found a wonderful partner. They will draw each other closer to God, and their love is a beacon which points all of us toward fullness of joy in Christ. So, raise your glasses with me to Daniel and Stephanie.
Oh, okay. Clink. The phone clink. There we go. We'll drink your beer, don't worry.
Now the best man, Raymond, Kiana.
Yeah!
First, I just also want to reiterate my thanks for all the families involved and all of the very many people, even yet unnamed, who worked so hard to make this parish hall a worthy mead hall for this feast. As a 1.5-year-old, I'm told that I showed very
Grandma, I can't have beers. I can't have beer. Can I pour this out somewhere? Pour it right in here.
But as the years
Thanks.
went on, I learned to
Mark, you got the part-time job here?
even finding him in time to be a quite suitable playfellow.
I'm a beer.
Especially when it was teething. Don't go with that. Under the aegis of Big Ronnie and Queen Anne, together the two of us would co-create, conquer, and colonize a whole cosmos of our own imagining, to which we gave the awesome Heraclitean name of Animal War. Ours was a highly blessed childhood of exploring, camping, fishing, hunting, getting read to by Dad, accompanying each other on the piano, lavishing opportunities for sanctification upon our homeschooling mother, and chasing our errant Wheaton Terrier throughout the northwest suburbs. And all these things, we were comrades in arms, but that's not to say that we always got along. Often we took to wrestling or otherwise whooping up on each other. I think practice for the Donnybrook. These encounters were pretty frequent until I started to recognize in Daniel a marked superiority in such contests, upon which de-escalation and detente ensued. Even so, however, the rivalry between us could grow so acute that at one point, I remember Mom physically interposing in between us and setting us the immediate task of memorizing all of Psalm 133. The one that starts off, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity." As time wore on, I came indeed to behold just how good and pleasant unity with such a brother could be. So many of the things that others have mentioned, that Ryan has mentioned, the singing together, the copying our parents and reading out loud to each other, reading through the Iliad together, reading through so many things out loud together, and growing in friendship that way. By the time college came around, I could truly say that my heart and mind had no better friend than in my brother. And when Daniel would eventually come and join me at Hillsdale, we came to share even more another precious thing, which was, as Daniel would say, a tangle of many, what I'm sure will be lifelong friendships. Now, when I was first introducing my brother to my friends, afterwards I noticed a pretty common pattern in their response. They would say, the conversation would go something like this: Raymond, we love your brother. He's weirdly like you in so many ways, except he's sane. It was also commonly remarked that Daniel would probably one day make a very good father. And in testimony to Daniel's reputation for sanity and paternal instincts, I can only draw attention to what Ryan has already alluded to, and just the sheer number of his friends who asked him to be their sponsor on coming into the Catholic Church, or who have asked him to be the godfather for their children. Well, after college, Daniel and I chased each other around the country a fair bit. First to Camp Buffalo Bill, Wyoming, then to Phoenix, eventually here to Dallas. But when I was in Phoenix, before Daniel had caught up to me, I remember being invited to an Easter dinner at the house of one Madison Cox. And also at this dinner was a friend of Madison's from college, just come in from California. And I staged a little rerun of my 1.5-year-old self, and in the uneuphemistic analysis of the lady in question, proceeded to ignore the presumed fly-by-night from California. Well, that lady turned out to be Stephanie Sebastian, and maybe one of these decades she'll let me live that down. But eventually, the next year, actually, Daniel came to Phoenix, and it was so good after a 7-year hiatus to be roommates again. But even so, it was a difficult year in some ways for both of us. It seemed kind of a pathless year. And I recall Daniel complaining that he felt like he was racing in first gear. The year after that, I moved to Italy, to a monastery, and a certain Stephanie Sebastian moved to the Valley of the Sun. And I remember during one of my monthly phone calls that was allowed me from the monastery, hearing from my brother about this new friend of his, whom he would accompany on the piano, in whom he had discovered a kindred love of singing hymns. It wasn't too long after when I got an email from him announcing of him and Stephanie that we are courting or dating, which I learned last night apparently means washing dishes together in the sink.
That's right.
We are courting or dating or whatever nice young Catholic people do to see if marriage might be a good idea for them. She is as holy as they come. She really is the most devout young woman I've known. Fa lax gratia et vana est pulchritudo, sed mulier clemens Dominum ipsa laudatur. Which means charm is deceptive and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she is to be praised. Though, he goes on, I think she is real pretty, too. She has consistently drawn my mind to more noble ideas, to natural beauties, to greater devotion. Bro. Regular paterfamilias now. Bro, if ever you were racing in first gear, those days are as far behind you now as those of Animal War. You have found your queen, and now it is time for the both of you to be co-creating your kingdom. As you do that, do it. Okay. As you do that, take to heart what you have so often heard quoted by Dad, words of another king, King Solomon. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. If that's just true, how much more true when the wife in question is someone like Stephanie? Someone who, besides from being real pretty, is also a woman who is somehow able to reconcile in herself both being outrageously pious and really fun. A woman who excels for how much she loves the scriptures, loves the church, loves the Blessed Mother, loves our Lord, and loves you. Stephanie, I want to congratulate and thank you. Congratulate you because now it's your turn to behold how good and pleasant it is to dwell in unity with someone like my brother. Someone so prudent, provident, strong, and good. And I thank you because I know that you, being who you are, will bring my brother joy. And that your spirit of abandonment and trust in God will always draw him deeper and deeper into the divine mercy. And that your lively heart will never let him forget that life is an adventure and a quest that ends in heaven. Daniel and Stephanie, you promised each other this day you were engaged on the feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The love of that heart is the bedrock of the love you have for each other. And because that's true, I know that your love will bring you both joy and will bear much fruit. Both of you are born to be teachers, and it makes me so happy to think that both of you will give to your children what your parents gave to you. Among so many other things, these two, a taste for and a love of true, beautiful words, especially when they are the words of God, and also a house that fears the Lord, manifesting to the world his providential power and his steadfast love. By his help, I know that the both of you and your children will become a city on a hill and a church in the wild. I believe that he who began a good work in both of you will be faithful to complete it, abiding with you from this day forward, all the liturgical years of your life. Y'all, please raise the glass for me to the health of Daniel and Stephanie. Many years and mazel tov.
Mazel tov.